It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. Before we get started, please hit that share button so we can share and educate many more patriots around the country. All right, we're kicking things off, as we always do this time of the week, with Vicki McKenna and CultureCast. Vicki, very good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Looking incredibly youthful in white. We like to see that. How are you feeling today?
I should have gone with camo. I don't know. I'm just still swooning over the genius of the State of the Union speech. So, just give me time to bask in it, feel good. It's almost like soaking in a hot bath of Epsom salts.
I must ask this question. After the speech, did you go get them?
Did I go get them? After the speech, I poured myself another amber lager and contemplated the wisdom of the words.
Yes. Joe Biden, a president for our time and for all time. Well, we have
unity.
We have an update. A couple weeks ago, we did, I thought, a very disturbing story about Grace Shara, a young girl, very vivacious. I think she's about 19, 20 years old, if I remember, who loved, she happened to be Down syndrome, but she had a great life. She had a very fulfilling life. She got sick, went to the doctors with COVID, and rather than treat her, they basically starved her and refused to give her water. And so now you have the parents of Grace Shara really trying to push back against this. And tell us the latest update on the story.
Well, and just so to refresh people's memories, Grace Shara had Down syndrome. She was admitted for COVID. Eventually, her father, who was her guardian, was removed from her room because he had COVID. Another family member was acting as her medical power of attorney, and she was unable to get into the room as the process to push a heavy dose of morphine had been begun. So what had eventually happened was a sedative cocktail was given to Grace that was necessarily going to result in her death. She was declared do not resuscitate without any permission from her actual guardians. Or people who were responsible for her care. So the update today is that Scott Shara, her dad, started a foundation, OurAmazingGrace.net, and took to the online fundraising platforms to seed some money. This is an organization that's intended to be a nonprofit, as a 501c whatever designation, and to raise some money to help other families that might be in this situation. GoFundMe shut him down. Just shut him down. Called it a prohibited content policy violation. I asked Mr. Shara yesterday what that meant. He has no idea, but this is yet another example of a national, large national fundraising platform deciding that apparently, a Christian message and questioning whether or not hospitals are making the right decision and defense of a Down syndrome girl is acceptable. GoFundMe says, we're not going to have your kind on our platform.
Geez, well, this all takes place here in the Fox Valley of Wisconsin, where I live. It's a little bit north of where you live, Vicki, and all the way between Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and up to Appleton, Wisconsin. Appleton, Wisconsin, is where this hospital is. The St. Elizabeth's Hospital. We should definitely tell you their name. St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Appleton is where this miscare took place. And so, interesting, with some of the money that Mr. Shara had received, they put up a series of billboards up 41 North, the highway, telling the story of Grace. They're really quite moving, and that's what he was doing with this money. The father, he's not grandiosing himself. He's not spending it on selfish things. He's trying to get the story of Grace out, and he wants to help other people. You interviewed him on your show. Over and above the cancellation of the GoFundMe, what's his state of mind, and what else does he want to be able to do?
He wants to help other families. He wants to make sure that nobody runs into the same situation where they feel like they've been foreclosed from medical decisions. I think just sort of a general support as well of parents who have Down syndrome or other disabled kids. But I think mostly this is about getting people an opportunity to have a platform to share their stories. There are dozens and dozens, at least, similar stories, perhaps not related, directly to Down syndrome victims, but certainly other people who have felt as if their authority was ignored or their care was substandard minimally, or their parents' or loved ones' care was substandard in Wisconsin hospitals based on COVID treatment protocols. So I think he's also just wanting to help people get their stories out there by providing a website and a platform that allows them to post a story and have it be instantly available for other people.
Well, this having the story of COVID being the number one issue for Democrats going all the way back to World War I, right? All of a sudden, it's now convenient with elections looming in the fall for the Democrats to have waved the white flag and gone from being obsessive about COVID to completely forgetting all about it. Here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any investigations whatsoever of the hospitals? All of those hospitals who started branding motorcycle deaths, COVID deaths, all that labeling COVID so they can get more money from the feds. Do you think there's ever going to be a reckoning come in this country for this kind of
I don't. I'd like to think there will be, maybe in sort of a case by case basis, but I don't think there's going to be a reckoning. I don't. I think they're going to get away with the lies. This isn't the first time that government incentives have caused for-profit hospitals to make decisions not based on what's best for the patient, but based on what's best for the bottom line. I hope that there, if the power base turns over in the midterm elections, that there can be some hearings and that there can be some accountability, at least for the people providing the incentives for hospitals to behave this poorly. I would like to see people collect all their stories in one location so you can scroll through them and say, it's not just me. This is not a problem that is isolated. It is a problem that, as I have learned in the last few weeks, is more widespread than I thought.
After the break, Vicki, we have another really important story from a school in Wisconsin. I'll see you on the other side.
Are you a fan of the show? Consider joining the Patriot Club. Your tax-deductible donation of $99 a year keeps us going. Simply visit patriotclub.us. That's patriotclub.us to pledge your support and receive our signature tumbler as a token of our appreciation. We've got much more to come. Stay with us.
All right, back now with Vicki McKenna for CultureCast. And Vicki, on the flip side, we're going to talk about Suring, Wisconsin. This is in Oconto County, Wisconsin. A district attorney has charged the superintendent of that school with 6 counts of false imprisonment. The charges stem from the search of 6 students who were asked to strip down to their underwear to be searched for vape cartridges. Talk about this.
Oh, my. Well, first, I think it's interesting that it was just false imprisonment that she's being charged with. Actually, first we should say I'm shocked she's being charged. And that is because, educrats get away with this kind of nonsense all the time. But she's being charged with false imprisonment. What about the strip search? That is not part of the charges. But be that as it may, yeah, this woman, I can't imagine what's in her mind, thinks that it's appropriate to make kids get naked and prove they don't have any vaping devices. I mean, you have got to be, I don't even know how to explain this except that administrators and educators have gotten so comfortable believing that they supplant parental authority that it likely didn't seem controversial to her at all.
District Attorney Edward Burke Jr. says the superintendent, whose name is Kelly Casper, directed the children into a small bathroom off of the nurse's office. Burke says Casper told the children to remove their clothing, and she stood in the doorway. Quote, once the children removed their clothes, any opportunity they had to escape would have subjected them to further shame and embarrassment. This is pretty interesting. I mean, it's a tremendous violation of the rights of these children. I got a couple of rather sarcastic questions to ask you. So if these had been transgender kids who were forced to strip down this way, do you think A, the principal would have done it in a million years? And B, wouldn't she already have been fired?
Absolutely true. What if these were black students?
Right.
What if these were, anything other than kids with white privilege? So yes, number one, she would have already been fired. I mean, she's facing 6 charges, 6 counts?
Yep.
She still has a job. Now, maybe she gets beyond this. I mean, I have no idea. But again, what it suggests is that an administrator does not have any qualms whatsoever about violating the privacy of these kids. I mean, in a way that will be interpreted as sexual without thinking that this is something that you need to clear with a parent. This is with no crime being committed, mind you. I mean, vaping in school is a violation of school rules, but it isn't a crime. No one's getting hauled off to the pokey for having the jewel in their back pocket. And so it is just, I think what it really testifies to is that people who aren't these children's parents, guardians, have assumed a role of authority even in excess, I think, of what we tolerate from parents. What if parents did that to their kids in public? I don't even know if parents would escape criticism for that kind of move.
If it were in public, those kids would go to Child Protective Services. It would be effectively a kind of sexual abuse against your own children.
I don't want to make this I don't want to go too far, down the road, down a side road here. But I mean, think about what you're hearing about Kettle Moraine School District and Madison School District and Appleton School District and Green Bay School District. You have these administrators declaring that children who declare themselves transgender will not have that information shared with parents. So again, when you think about this, it doesn't really seem like a great stretch for someone who thinks it's okay to encourage a little kid to declare themselves the opposite sex and obliterate, family stability, to saying, drop trow and show me your vapes. It doesn't really seem that far away.
No, and what also surprises me is in such a permissive school, sexually, personally, in terms of bodily integrity, such radically permissive schools, they would never be searching for anything. If this was cannabis instead of vaping, do you think they'd have gone off it the same way? I mean, I think they would have been much more sympathetic, and I don't think they would have made them strip. It's vaping, right? What passes for contraband in public schools now? It's the kind of thing.
Vaping blows my mind.
Exactly.
Because vaping is what's replaced the cigarette smokers in the bathroom.
That's right.
You have vapors now, and the vapor disappears. You don't smell the residual stink of cigarettes. It's safer than cigarettes. I mean, is it optimal and ideal? No. Should you permit kids to have vapes in school? I mean, just talking about the vaping issue. I vape, for heaven's sakes. And the answer is no, you don't want to have those kids have vapes in school. But really, I mean, Duke, we're Gen X. Back in the day when kids would have been trying to sneak a smoke inside the boys' room or the girls' room, the worst you would have gotten was detention.
Right.
Just saying.
That's right. And we are being told now by the public schools that the teachers and especially the administrators are not just the surrogate parents. When the kids are on campus, they are the acting parents.
Right.
This shows you the kind of judgment the new parent has, and it's really kind of creepy. Maybe there needs to be a CPS dedicated to following exclusively Child Protective Services, a branch following the surrogate parents of these teachers and educators. Wouldn't that change things real fast if you had people's jobs on the line?
If they wanted to kick the police out of the schools and replace them with social workers, how about social workers from Child Protective Services protecting kids from creepy, politically motivated, agenda motivated adults who want to turn them into freak shows?
And that means if you got a 40-year-old teacher who's teaching a 6-year-old the ins and outs, no pun intended, of anal intercourse, that's a reason to take that child away from that school and that teacher. Well, we just solved that problem. Vicki,
that would make sense.
It's great having you here. We fixed the problem. No one's going to listen. All right, back with you next week. Enjoy your week.
Today's show is sponsored by Clean Start Hand Sanitizer. For an odor-free foam hand sanitizer that lasts 2 hours and provides 19 refills, visit freedomproject.com/clean. That's KLEEN to order yours today.
All right, it's time now for Trending Left. We've suffered the agony of compiling some of the craziest social media content making waves across the internet for your viewing pleasure. Every week, we draw attention to radical teachers who shouldn't be around children. In a twist of irony, today we're featuring a self-identified, quote, long-distant parent, unquote, who probably shouldn't be around her own child, which is maybe why she's not. Especially, she is obsessed to the extreme with her pronouns. Watch.
So I'm a long-distance parent, and I get to typically talk to my kiddo through FaceTime. And we've been working on my pronouns for probably about a year now. everyone that she's with on a regular basis doesn't use my pronouns correctly. And so that's a really, really hard sort of like line to walk for her, because she's not with me all the time. But we do talk about it. We talk about pronouns. We talk about, you know, what her pronouns are, what daddy's pronouns are, what mommy's pronouns are, what other people's pronouns are, and we just like really work through it. I always just gently remind her and say, hey baby, what are mommy's pronouns? And she's so funny because she's always like, they, them. Like, she knows.
Progressive moms are becoming a lot like school teachers. Don't really care about any other aspect of their kids' development except the damn pronouns. Maybe in coming around to this, we're starting to come to the conclusion that maybe divorce actually is a good thing. Next, we head on to an elementary classroom where a teacher who identifies as they, them, shows exactly how progressive teachers are indoctrinating or trying to indoctrinate tiny, tiny kids to parrot their radical pronoun beliefs. Listen to this exchange.
Do we say them or they?
You would say they if you were talking about me and you were like, they are really awesome. Or if you said, I want to give this piece of candy to them. Get it?
I like your hair. They.
How about
I like your hair, them, Mandy.
Yeah, close enough. We'll work on the grammar later. That's pretty good, though. I like it.
Thanks.
And so think about this. Before the kids even learn any grammar at all, i.e. what part of speech a pronoun is, they're being forced to parrot the pronouns of goofy adults. Meanwhile, the principal at Deer Park Middle School in Austin, Texas, is now urging all teachers to remove the gender from any school award in order to be more inclusive. See, how do you include people? You erase their genders if they're male and female. The email is from Principal Manning, and it reads as follows. One update I'd like for our awards is to remove gender to the maximum extent possible. For example, boy award and girl award. Please just have 2 students, example, Ranger Pride Award for the title, and then just the student names. I mean, this is remarkable. These people, as we just saw in the previous 2 videos, everything is about gender. But when it comes to boy and girl, we must do everything to eradicate gender in that instance. And since gender pronouns are so important in public schools today, a PTA in Glendale, California, wants to make sure it's doing their part. Last month, the Dunsmore PTA awarded its elementary school a donation of $437.50 to provide a gender equity consultant for little kids. So way to go, PTA. I guess Pronoun Trans Association is what that stands for. Finally, we end with a video of a teacher saying she doesn't have an answer to parents concerned with what their kids are learning in class. In fact, she has some choice words for you, Mom, about what she, the teacher, owes you. Watch this.
So I see how you think that you've done something here because parents or community members have voiced concern to their elected official, which is how that process works. Not bringing it to a teacher, right? They're taking it to the elected official. And now that legislators are trying to implement these things. But still, in fact, a parent, not my boss. I don't actually answer to them, so get bent.
And that wraps up this segment. More craziness in the weeks to come. It's time now for some real education. This week we are showcasing our Presidential Minute series. These short videos are designed to educate adults and especially children on our nation's leaders in 90-second videos or less. Today, we're going to take a look at Dwight D. Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy as a pair of presidents who had a great impact on this country's history. You enjoy.
Let me tell you a little story about a man named Dwight D. Eisenhower. Born in Denison, Texas on October 14, 1890, he would become the last president born in the 19th century. Though born David Dwight, he reversed it upon entering West Point Military Academy. At 26, he married Mamie Geneva Dowd and together raised 2 sons. He served as president of Columbia University, supreme commander of the Allied forces in Europe, and was the first supreme commander of NATO. In 1952, Dwight Eisenhower was elected as the nation's 34th president, becoming the only general to serve as president in the 20th century. During his 2 terms in office, he approved $25 billion to be used to build 41,000 miles of highway in America. He arranged a truce in Korea, created NASA, and admitted Hawaii and Alaska to the Union, becoming the first president to oversee 50 states. A favorite place to get away, the presidential retreat known as Camp David was named after Eisenhower's grandson. On March 28, 1969, Dwight D. Eisenhower died of heart failure at the age of 78. And there you go, a little story about a man named Dwight. Let me tell you a little story about a man named John F. Kennedy. Born in Brookline, Massachusetts on May 29, 1917, he would become the youngest president ever elected to office. A model student, he graduated top of his class at Harvard. He eventually joined the Navy and became a hero after saving another man's life. In addition to serving in World War II, he also worked in the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate. At 36, he married Jacqueline Bouvier and together raised 2 children. 7 years later, in 1960, John F. Kennedy was elected as the nation's 35th president, becoming the second youngest president in history behind Theodore Roosevelt. Kennedy is the only Catholic president and the only president to win a Pulitzer Prize. During his term, he faced the Bay of Pigs, Cuban Missile Crisis, space race, and Vietnam War. He also created the Peace Corps. On November 22, 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, while waving the flags from the back of his car. 2 days later, suspect Lee Harvey Oswald was killed by Jack Ruby. At 46 years old, Kennedy died younger than any president in history. And there you go, a little story about a man named John.
And I do want to take a moment to thank our Patriot Club members for making these videos possible. Your financial support provides the resources to bring these stories to life for all to enjoy. Some of our videos, our educational videos we've been showing for the last 2 weeks, are actually ending up in public schools. Believe it or not, public school teachers in these grossly anti-American public schools are finding our videos and showing some of them to the children. So that actually is a really important thing that we're providing here. If you're not already a member of the Patriot Club, please consider joining. It's $99 tax-deductible gift, and that will help us keep these videos flowing. Move videos and series like the Presidential Minute. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get you started, and thank you for thinking about us. And that's going to do it for this show. I am Dr. Duke. Until next time, stay educated, my friends, and be Patriot educated.